We are a lot of people in the community struggling with SOAP, and we're struggling with identity and these kind of things you put in your keynote. Do you have any advice to us? Should we go and look for REST now? Should we integrate the two of them?
Those are hard problems. I think that let me address your last question. Should you integrate SOAP and REST? If by integrate you mean have the same application use both of them, well, probably not. Because the way you expose, it's too strong, the way you expose services in SOAP and REST is quite different. SOAP is about operations, REST is about resources, which most often means data. So it is not uncommon for a single application to expose both a REST and a SOAP interface, especially if the app exposes data. At the same time, I think that most apps, most SOAP apps anyway, would be challenging to recast as REST for a lot of developers. And so picking one or the other is probably better for cases where that actually works for you.
So you need to get into, my worry was, if you get into the problem that I got some logic, maybe 80% is data, I use the get for the reads, that sounds wonderful for all the Ajax-based stuff. But if I need the logic, what would be your advice to go for small amounts of logic?
Well, the RESTful people typically just use posts. They define a URI that represents an operation, like a SOAP operation, and you pass parameters to it in a post. This is kind of cheating, it's kind of non-RESTful, it's kind of sin in the Church of Rastafarianism, but you got to do it and it's okay.
Okay, great. Any good advice for the developer community to now looking into more of a SOA and how to really get it?
The truth is that I have become increasingly cynical about SOA, at least the big picture view of SOA, in the last little while. In particular, I think that people shouldn't view SOA as a thing, as an it. The truth is there are many things that make up this entity we call SOA. There's the idea of building apps that expose their services. There's the idea of service-oriented integration. People use the term ESB, unfortunately, but there is that idea. There's the larger notion of building business processes, business process management on top of a SOA environment. All of these things, I think, can have value in organizations. When people say SOA, though, they so often think right away about this notion of large-scale service reuse in particular, and that aspect of SOA, I am finding, is very, very hard to pull off. So I guess my advice would be to realize that SOA is in fact a label for a range of things. Figure what those things are and which ones can actually work in your environment, because the biggest impediments aren't technical, they're human. Big SOA with lots of reuse requires substantial organizational change in most firms, and that's very hard to pull off.
So actually, to summarize, you could say that we should go from the management and make sure that they really understand what they want to do with the software before the developers and techies start playing around with the different acronyms.
That's a great point. If your management doesn't buy in, you're going to get nowhere, no matter what technology you use. It's a very good point.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. I know you're stressed for the next session, so thank you, and I hope you enjoy the time here.
Thank you very much. It's great to be in Sweden.